Well, what do we have here? We have WNBA media who are hating on independent content creators who are doing their thing and making noise and being honest about a lot of the things that Caitlin Clark has had to deal with since entering this league, and they don't like it. Y'all love it, therefore they don't like it. They are spewing hate toward the creators now. What, y'all jealous? What are y'all hating for?
That was the cold open. And let me tell you exactly what just happened. The Ringer, yes, that Ringer, the one with corporate backing, the one with Spotify dollars in their pocket, just published a hit piece on independent content creators who cover Caitlin Clark. Writers named in the article, channels named in the article, video titles screenshotted in the article. The mainstream WNBA media establishment has officially declared war on independent voices. And here's the thing, they didn't go after us because we were wrong. They went after us because we were right. And the audience knows it. That's why their numbers are crashing and ours are climbing. Make no mistake, when a corporate outlet starts attacking small creators by name, that is not journalism. That is fear. That is panic. That is an admission they have lost the room. And tonight we're going to walk through every single piece of this story. What was said, who said it, why they said it, and exactly what it tells you about the state of WNBA coverage in 2026.
So, you guys know over here, we have been just completely real and honest about a lot of this stuff that has gone on with Caitlin Clark in this league and about the league in general and things we saw going on with other franchises, other players, etc. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. We cover it all. And they are not liking.
Listen to that again. Real and honest. That is what this channel has done since day one. That is what Ben Daniels does. That is what Black and White Sports does. That is what every independent creator in this space does. We tell you what we see with our own eyes. And the WNBA old guard in media cannot stand it. Why? Because for years they had a monopoly on this conversation. For years they told you what to think about every player, every coach, every controversy. And then Caitlin Clark walked into this league in April 2024, brought in millions of new eyeballs, and suddenly the audience figured out the corporate media was selling them a narrative. So now those same corporate voices are publishing articles trying to discredit anyone who tells you a different story. That is the play. That is the entire play.
Like it. So they titled this, "The Caitlin Clark Machine is Turning on Caitlin." Okay, here it says the Indiana Fever star was supposed to save the WNBA discourse. Instead, she's become trapped inside it. Okay, and this is the writer of the article right here, and it says, let's get to the meat and potatoes to this thing.
The Caitlin Clark machine is turning on Caitlin. That is the actual headline the Ringer ran. Let that sink in. The most popular athlete in women's basketball. The player who personally drove record television ratings and sold out arenas in cities that had never seen a WNBA crowd before. And the Ringer's framing is that she is the problem. Not the coaches, not the front office, not the league office. Her fans, the creators who cover her. According to this article, every single person rallying around Caitlin Clark is somehow part of the issue. And the writer has the nerve to call independent creators conspiracy theorists. Here's the thing, we are not conspiracy theorists. We are eyewitnesses. There is a difference, a massive difference.
None of this is new, of course. Well, the fact of the matter is, none of this stuff was made up. We watched the Indiana Fever parade her around state to state, city to city, arena to arena, and list her as day to day for months on end. That is misleading. Those were lies being told. And then it came out there was an ankle injury that they tried to keep under wraps. And there was a bunch of stuff. So the Indiana Fever have not earned the...
That right there is the core of it. The Indiana Fever have not earned the trust. They lost it. They burned it. They watched their franchise player limp around for months last season, while the front office listed her as day-to-day, game after game, city after city, arena after arena. Fans flew in from across the country to see her play. Some of them spent thousands of dollars on flights and hotels and tickets. And then she didn't play. And the Fever said nothing. And then it turned out there was a real injury the whole time that the team had not been transparent about. That happened. That is documented. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the historical record. And the corporate media wants you to forget all of it.
You don't need to try to make it seem like people just made this stuff up. No, we watched it happen day after day after day, game after game after game. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Nobody is looking to be fooled twice. Okay, now here it says,
fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That is the oldest line in the book, and it applies here perfectly. The Fever organization burned the trust of this fan base in 2024. They had every chance in 2025 to rebuild that trust, and they chose not to. Now in May 2026, when Caitlin Clark is once again a late scratch with no warning, no prior injury report, no transparency, you cannot turn around and blame the fans for being skeptical. You cannot turn around and blame independent creators for asking questions. The questions are valid. The skepticism is earned. And anybody pretending otherwise is either lying or selling something, probably both. And what comes next is the moment that broke this whole thing wide open.
Came to a head Friday night before the Fever beat the Valkyries. Clark scored 22 points, hitting 4 threes, 9 assists. But it was her performance before the game that was more noteworthy when she delivered the most blunt, transparent, frustrated press conference of her career. Okay, and it's talking about how, you know, Clark says she knew at 4:47 or whatever, and everybody else found out at 5:20. Okay, and here it says, how does one conduct?
Friday night, Caitlin Clark drops 22 points, hits 4 three-pointers, dishes out 9 assists. The Fever beat the Valkyries. But the story of the night was not the box score. The story of the night was the pre-game press conference. Caitlin Clark stood in front of the media, the same media that wrote the article we are discussing tonight, and delivered the most blunt, most transparent, most frustrated press conference of her professional career. That is the Ringer's own description, their own words. She found out about her own status on her own team at 4:47 in the afternoon. Everybody else found out at 5:20. That is a 33-minute window in which the franchise player of the Indiana Fever was the last person in the building to know what was happening with her own body. Read that one more time. The franchise player was the last to know. And independent creators are supposed to not comment on that? Are you kidding me?
The moment Clark entered the mainstream consciousness, she's been tied to an enemy of sort, whether Angel Reese, Diana Taurasi, the refs, or the league itself. But the Reese rivalry is cooled for now. Clark wears Taurasi's USA jersey. She's even pretty happy with the refs these days. The W isn't Caitlin or nothing anymore. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there are a bunch of good players, but are they box office? I wouldn't necessarily say so.
The Caitlin Clark effect is making it hard for Caitlin Clark to operate. That is the quote. That is the article's central thesis, and it is one of the most backwards, twisted, gaslighting takes I have ever read in 20 years of watching this sport. The Caitlin Clark effect, the thing that saved this league, the thing that doubled television ratings, the thing that filled arenas in cities that had never sold out a WNBA game in their history, is now being framed as the problem. Not the coaching staff, not the front office, not the lack of transparency, the effect of having the most popular player in the sport. That is the problem according to the Ringer. Make no mistake, that is not analysis. That is corporate spin designed to protect the people who actually deserve criticism. And the audience can smell it from a mile away.
These people were robbed last year. I had a guy come on my channel, I'm gonna put it out actually, where he said he canceled his season tickets because of what happened last season, and there was no transparency with the fans. So all of that has to be taken into consideration. And this is where they take shots at independent creators. So now you have people searching for hate under the couch cushion to suggest that her own team, her own coach is sabotage.
A guy canceled his season tickets. A real guy, a real fan, real money, real seats, gone. Because of what happened last season. And he is not alone. The Valkyries are outselling the Fever at home games right now in May 2026. The Aces are outselling them. The Liberty are outselling them. You read that correctly. 3 different teams are outselling the franchise that has Caitlin Clark on its roster. Why? Because the fans don't know if she is going to play. Because the trust is gone. Because head coach Stephanie White and the front office have shown them they don't prioritize transparency with the paying customer. That is the reality on the ground. And the Ringer thinks the problem is the independent creators reporting it. Because the real story isn't just what happened tonight. It's what this means for everything coming next.
Spicy enough they're preparing to trade her. Nobody said that they drafted Raven Johnson to spite her. We said y'all should have got a big. We needed size. That is what people said. There were players available with size that we could have gotten to load up on the front line some. That's it. The Indiana Fever signed 13 guards in free agency, and they drafted another 2. So
now let me address the Raven Johnson line specifically, because the corporate article flat out misrepresented what independent creators have been saying. Nobody, and I mean nobody, said the Fever drafted Raven Johnson specifically to spite Caitlin Clark. That is a straw man. That is a manufactured controversy. What independent creators actually said is what every basketball person in America has been saying. This team has signed 13 guards in free agency, drafted 2 more, and has nobody to anchor the front line. The Fever needed size. They needed a big. There were players available. They passed on every single one of them. That is the real critique. The article twisted it into something it never was so they could knock down a fake version of the argument. That is dishonest writing, period.
Okay, it says, there is a conspiratorial thread to weave here. The WNBA let Fever off with just a warning, even though they never listed Clark as questionable before announcing she was out. Plus, there are financial ripple effects that will follow if something serious is happening that will make her sit out more games. And then they go on to tag Ben Daniels' video and Black and White.
Here is the part of the article that gives away the whole game. The Ringer admits, in their own words, that the WNBA let the Fever off with just a warning, even though Caitlin Clark was never listed as questionable before being announced as out. Read that one more time. The league office itself acknowledged the Fever broke protocol. The league office itself issued a warning. The league office itself confirmed what independent creators have been saying for weeks. And then the Ringer turned around in the very next paragraph and called the independent creators making this exact point conspiracy theorists. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot admit the protocol was broken and then attack the people who pointed out the protocol was broken. That is not analysis. That is corporate gaslighting on a national platform. Now this is the part where things got personal. Because what came next was a direct attack on creators by name.
You are so butthurt that people are being honest. First of all, nobody made up anything. Nobody made up anything. All of the things that was brought up are things that we watched happen. We watched them parade her around and lie about an injury. So therefore, you can't blame people for being skeptical about if they want to continue to spend their money. You can't blame people for any of these things. It seems like you're jealous that independent creators are getting traction that you are unable to get even with the company behind you. That's what it seems like.
Here is what this means going forward. 5 things. Number 1. Every independent creator covering Caitlin Clark just gained credibility, not lost it, because a corporate outlet just confirmed in writing that we are the voices the establishment notices. Number 2. The corporate WNBA media has now publicly chosen sides, and they did not choose the side of the franchise player. They chose the side of management. The audience saw that. Number 3. Caitlin Clark herself, based on her own press conference, is openly frustrated with the lack of transparency from her own organization. That is not a conspiracy theory. Those are her own words. Number 4. The league office is now on record warning the team. Number 5. Caitlin Clark's contract clock is ticking, and every single one of these mistakes is being filed away in her camp. Mark it down. Mark every single one of these down. And one more thing. Many of you in the comments have been saying exactly this for weeks. You were right. You called out the Fever front office before the corporate media would. You called out the communication issues before anybody on television would. You called out the lack of transparency before any major outlet would acknowledge it. And tonight, every single one of you got vindicated one more time. This hit piece is not a defeat for independent creators, it is a victory. Because corporate outlets do not bother attacking people who are losing. They attack people who are winning.
Sports, it says, but those headlines may feel a little dull when you're used to getting your dopamine from such classics. And then these are the Ben Daniels and Black and White Sports video titles. Okay. And it says Clark discourse is where so many modern online mimification of identity, wherein the values people symbolize that are often projected onto them. Trump what they actually believe. Healthy skepticism about what a player really thinks is replaced by full-blown cash incentive.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. That is the takeaway. When a corporate sports outlet uses its national platform to attack small independent creators by name, creators with no PR teams, no legal departments, no corporate backing, that is nasty work. That is punching down. That is shameful. Here's the bottom line. Independent creators are not going anywhere. We were here before the corporate media noticed Caitlin Clark. We are here now, and we are going to be here long after this writer moves on to the next assignment. The audience trusts us because we tell them what we actually see. That is the entire formula. We just tell the truth. So I want to hear from you in the comments tonight. 2 choices. Choice 1. Do you trust the corporate sports media to tell you the real story about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever? Or choice 2. Do you trust the independent creators who have been ahead of every major development in this story for 2 straight years? Make your pick. Drop it below. Hit that like button if you are with the independent creators. Subscribe if you are new here. Share this video with somebody who needs to hear it. We are not going anywhere. The vision keeps going.
You're not doing that. You can't do that. So it seems like you're running around and hating on independent content creators who are doing their thing and being honest about the foolishness that's going on. This is nasty work. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. This Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel. We ain't going nowhere.
Nobody made up anything. Let me say that again because it bears repeating. Nobody made up anything. Every claim independent creators have made on this story is sourced. Every video has receipts. Every accusation has video evidence. The injury reporting issues of 2024, documented. The Stephanie White press conference comments, on tape. The 33-minute window between Caitlin Clark finding out and the public finding out, confirmed by Caitlin Clark herself at her own press conference. The league office warning to the Fever, acknowledged by the league itself. Independent creators did not invent any of this. We reported it. There is a difference, a massive difference, and the people accusing us of making things up are the same people who looked the other way for 2 seasons while this organization mistreated its franchise player. Now let me put this in historical context, because the older fans watching tonight remember what this looks like. This is not the first time corporate sports media has tried to bury independent voices that got too loud. Go back to the early 2000s when sports bloggers first started covering the NBA. The mainstream press wrote the exact same articles about them. Conspiracy theorists, untrained, unprofessional. 10 years later, half those bloggers were sitting at ESPN. Go back further to sports talk radio in the 1990s. The newspapers called talk radio hosts unqualified, sensationalist, dangerous. 20 years later, talk radio became the dominant voice in sports media in America. The pattern repeats every single time. The establishment attacks independent voices the moment those voices threaten their monopoly. And every single time, the independent voices were the ones telling the bigger part of the story. Let me look at this from 4 different angles. First, the business angle. The Ringer is a corporate outlet, and they are losing the audience war to creators making videos out of their living rooms. That is uncomfortable for them. Second, the access angle. Corporate writers depend on access to the league, to the team, to the players. Independent creators do not, so we are harder to manage. Third, the fan angle. The audience rewards the people who say out loud what the audience is already seeing. Fourth, the league angle. The WNBA is in a delicate spot where the most popular player they have ever had is at odds with her own franchise, and the corporate media is being deployed to soften that story. 4 different problems, 4 different layers of damage, all hitting at the same time. And here's the one thing nobody is talking about. The biggest consequence of all is still coming.